Hi, everybody. A very good evening to all of you. I welcome you all to this Fun with Fermented Foods intro session. And before we begin this session, I think that most of you are aware about what Wellcure is all about. But to all those who are new today, Wellcure is a natural healing platform, digital platform where we have lots of live workshops, recorded sessions, e-learning programs, various recipes on our platform, and testimonials of people who have healed naturally. So to know more about Wellcure, you can surely check our website or even our app on Play Store or App Store. Now, quickly talking about a few pointers to ensure that the session progresses smoothly. I would request all of you to stay on mute, and you can keep your mobile phones on silent. For any communication, we'll use the chat box. I would request you to also ask questions which are relevant to today's topic. You can take notes of the topics which you think are relevant for you. Now coming to the session format, so we have our expert today with us, and she's going to talk about what is fermentation, about the relationship between fermented foods and gut health, fermented foods versus pickles, and she will be sharing tips for adding them to your diet and how to simplify so that you can make them at home. And we have an amazing course recipe demo also to show to all of you today, Ambali. And then, of course, we have a surprise offer for all of you in the end. And we'll take all the questions which you will be asking in the chat box in the end. So you can ask your question in the chat and we'll take them at the last. Now, I would like to take that opportunity to introduce our program expert who is here with us today, Vinita Contractor. It's an honor to have you, Vinita. And Vinita is a holistic nutrition and lifestyle coach. She's even a certified holistic nutrition and lifestyle coach from American Fitness Professionals and Associates, US. And she has completed plant-based nutrition certificate from Cornell and T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies, New York, US, as well as other courses in wellness, culinary, nature cure, and Ayurveda diet. So it's an honor to have you, Vinita, with us here today, and we welcome you, and over to you now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karishma, and thank you, Team Wellcure. I'm always happy to come back to conducting sessions with Wellcure, and a warm welcome to all of you here. Those of you who are comfortable, it would be really nice to see your faces, so do keep your cameras on. I will not judge you about what clothes you're wearing or what your background is or whether you've showered or not or whether your hair is combed or not. It doesn't matter. It's just nice to see the human being at the other end. And let's dive straight in. I'm going to share my screen and just a moment. I hope you can see my screen. Karishma, just let me know if you can see my name on the screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So this is an event with Wellcure, which I'm very happy to be a part of. And all of these pointers Karishma has already shared. I would like if you could take notes during the session so that you can answer me, ask me those questions whenever the opportunity is available or when I ask for your questions. And we'll stay on topic for the questions. We will not be addressing individual health concerns, but anything related to the course or fermented foods is what I will be able to take questions on. And like I said, keep your camera on. She's already told you about the trainings I've undergone. And this is what I do. I work with people on a one-on-one basis to achieve their health goals, whether they are weight loss or working with the PCOD, thyroid, diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol, any of these issues. I work with closely with my clients and have been pretty successful at reversing many of them, or at least improving the levels of many of these conditions. I have a juice cleanse, which we do every month. And I also do workshops for corporates and individuals. So this is just me a few years ago, and the next picture is also from a few years ago. After I turned plant-based, I found a greater vitality, greater sense of well-being, better energy, better overall health, and of course, lost some extra weight without too much of effort by just basic exercise and making dietary changes. So I've greatly benefited from it, and which is why I like to share and teach as well as help people on their individual health journeys. So today's agenda is to talk about what is fermentation, how they are connected, how fermented foods are connected with gut health, talk about fermented foods versus pickles, tips on how to add them into your diet and simplify making them at home, and share a recipe demo with you. So we're talking about fermented foods. So firstly, we're going to understand what fermentation is. Most of you would associate the word fermenting with maybe a dosa or an idli or maybe alcohol, because that is also fermented. So fermentation is actually an anaerobic cellular process in which the bacteria or the yeast or any other microorganisms convert into simpler compounds. And basically what happens is that lactofermentation happens, where the natural bacteria feed on the sugar and the starch in the food, creating lactic acid. And this lactic acid works as a brilliant preservative, natural preservative for food. And this process actually biopreserves the food, creates enzymes, it creates B vitamins, omega-3s, and very beneficial probiotic bacterial strains, which are very, very good for our gut. Basically, what this process does is the fermentation that happens in the food, we get the benefit of all the microorganisms and increase the number of these microorganisms in our gut. And that increases our healthy bacteria count. We always need our bacteria to be in balance. We want the healthy and the unhealthy to be in the right proportion. So to keep that, we add fermented foods. So the benefits as such would be enzymes are increased in this food, and it helps you to, that's why, better digest food, absorb the nutrients better, and you tend to require less of supplements, etc. The probiotics help to restore the balance in the gut, aid the digestion, as well as up your immune health. The lactic acid, which I mentioned, is one of the best natural preservatives, and it keeps pathogenic bacteria or harmful bacteria at bay, and that makes it safe to eat even raw vegetables. So it's a common thought that it's better to eat fried food outside compared to a salad. Now, I won't say that in terms of health in general, because we know fried food is not good for us, but a badly made salad, in the sense which is not well cleaned, is dangerous to be consumed in a raw form. But if it's fermented, and if it's a good ferment, which you will learn what a good ferment is in the course, it's actually safer than raw food. And the lactofermentation process stores the food much longer without adding any preservatives and without reducing the nutritive benefits or the nutrition in the food itself. While when it's canned or when it's bottled with chemicals, then of course the food is stable, but it has lost a lot of its nutrients. So that's why it's preservation without loss of nutrients. And fermentation increases the nutritive value by enriching it with certain nutrients. So when you look at sauerkraut and you look at cabbage, sauerkraut is 10x cabbage, okay? Because the whole process converts that simple cabbage into a superfood. So that's what, these are some of the benefits of fermented foods, and I love them personally. I love consuming them, I love teaching them, and they're always a part of my family's pantry and kitchen. So properly fermented foods are actually safer than raw foods, like I mentioned, which might have been exposed to pathogens like E. coli. And the reason is the lactic acid bacteria that carry out the fermentation are the world's best killer of other harmful bacteria. So incorporate more probiotic fermented foods into your diet and put these live, good for you organisms back where they belong in your gut. This is by Dr. Frank Lipman, renowned doctor. That's his quote. Now, our relation with our immune system and gut is very closely related. About 70% of our immune system, up to 80% actually, exists in our gut. So what happens is that your gut microbiome supports the development of immune cells and contributes towards the body's overall immune response. And the immune system in turn helps maintain a stable gut environment by growing and populating enough healthy bacteria, healthy microbes. So before I go ahead, I want to ask if there are any questions so far. I'm happy to look at the questions in the chat box. So if you have any questions at the moment, please share. I'd like to know how many people have already been fermenting. And this would be other than dosa, idli, dhokla, and dahi. Anything besides that has anybody experimented with? Yes. You've made kombucha, amazing. Did you make the kombucha with the SCOBY or with existing kombucha? Kimchi is a Korean fermented food made out of cabbage, but it's made quite differently from sauerkraut. It has different ingredients and it has a spicy flavor, while the sauerkraut has just a salty flavor. Curd as such is also a fermented food, yes. You made a fermented drink with fresh haldi, carrots, and beets, amazing. Fermented sauces, wow. Which ones, Ravindra? Which fermented sauces have you made? Nice. So you've made the traditional authentic ketchup by fermenting. That's amazing. It tastes so good, and it's something that most people have in their homes every day. So if it's fermented, it makes it that much better. Fermented rice is also a very common Indian fermented food, and we should go back to eating such things. Kefir you've made. Amazing, Ravindra. Okay. So let's continue. I'm glad to know many of you are already fermenting, and this course will further enhance your fermentation skills with newer items. Some of them you would know, but there would be many that I'm sure you would learn in the course. I'm going to continue. So I was mentioning to you that there is a balance that needs to be maintained in our gut. So if our good bacteria is about 85% and not so beneficial bacteria is about 15%, then it's good. But when this balance gets affected, it creates something called as dysbiosis. And this dysbiosis is a starting point from where a lot of other ailments can, develop, and you'll be surprised the range of conditions, diseases, disorders that can begin with an imbalance in the gut, right from depression to autoimmune conditions to hormonal imbalance can all happen with an imbalance in the gut, which is why it's important to. So I wouldn't say just eating fermented food will take care of your gut. It's important to cut away those food items that don't do our gut any good, such as artificial sweeteners, food with preservatives, artificial colors, emulsifiers, flavorings, even things like antacids. People eat Eno and Digene and Gelusil so frequently, and those actually make our gut very, very unhealthy, because what it does is, what these do is they make our gut less acidic, which is what you would take them for. But the stomach should be acidic. So rather than reduce the acidity artificially, we have to try and work on the issues that make you acidic in the first place. Taking it once in a while as an emergency is different, but there are people who regularly and routinely take Rantac, routinely take Gelusil and Digene and antacids, and that is where the gut gets affected. So my favorite fermented foods, which are very easy, like beginner level, which even young adults can make, is sauerkraut and kanji, because they require very, very few ingredients. In fact, in North India, kanji is routinely made in winter, and it's made with purple carrot and beetroot. But if purple carrot is not available, you can also do it with regular carrots. And these are super easy. Even if you're traveling, you can make them with minimal ingredients, and sauerkraut is pretty stable. You can easily carry it with you if you're just, flying for a few hours. Let me see, there are some messages in the chat. What is sauerkraut? Sauerkraut is sour cabbage in German, and it's there as a part of the course. Now, fermentation and pickling. So we Indians have our range of pickles, which we love, right? But here I'm talking about first the canning kind of pickling, and then our Indian pickles also I will come to. So usually in fermentation, we ferment with brine, which is a mixture of salt and water. And that is what creates the lactic acid when it combines with the vegetables or whatever you've used. For pickling, the medium is vinegar. And most often in commercial canning or pickling, it is not apple cider vinegar, or at least it's not natural apple cider vinegar. It's the, synthetic vinegar. Now in fermentation, the environment is clean, it's non-pathogenic, but in pickling, it's completely sterile. So what does that mean? In fermentation, there is bacteria, but only the good bacteria. While in pickling, like I said, because it's sterile, it kills all the bacteria. There is nothing, it's not alive in that sense. Fermentation adds nutrients to the food because the beneficial bacteria multiply. And in pickling or canning, it just keeps it as it is with a shelf life, and it does not get bad. It doesn't get spoiled, and it does not add any nutrients. It just stays the way it is. Fermentation is slower because depending on the dish, it can take between, different dishes have different fermentation times. So some can take 1 day, some can take 14 days. So it depends on the item itself. And canning and pickling is pretty much instant. The minute the vinegar is put into the vegetables that you are pickling, or whatever you're pickling, then it's ready. So its speed is fast. The flavor in fermented food is pretty peculiar and distinct. It requires some getting used to. Some people find the smell and taste quite strong, and it's got a lot of complexity. It has an umami flavor, while pickling and canned food has pretty much one dominant taste, which is more salty or more vinegary. It doesn't have the complex flavors of fermentation. And fermented food is not so shelf stable, because once the fermentation is done, the process is over, the item needs to be kept in the fridge. While canned and pickled food can be kept outside without refrigeration because it is sterile. It's not going to go bad. There is nothing alive in it in that sense. Now, the footnote I want to add about Indian pickles is we tend to use a lot of oil, a lot of masala, and a lot of salt. So from the point of view of nutrition, they are great for the flavor component. Like as per Ayurveda, you should eat all the different 6 flavors in your food. So a little bit of pickle, even with a lot of oil, a lot of salt, is okay if it's a small quantity. But in terms of benefit of probiotic bacteria, there are none. And in terms of the excess masala, excess oil being harmful to you in the long run because of eating a bit too liberally is also high. Having said that, there are Indian pickles that you can make with salt, without oil, without too much masala, and those can be fermented. So that way you've got the benefit of eating fermented Indian pickles. And there are one of those in the course as well. Any questions? Let me see if there's anything in the chat. Oh, thank you, Shilpa. You make sauerkraut and kombuchas regularly. Thanks. So here are some tips of how you can add them into your diet. You can use them as a side, like you would use a pickle. I find sauerkraut is super easy to incorporate with any kind of food. And sauerkraut basic recipe is just salt and cabbage with a few herbs, but you can completely Indianize it by putting, sabut garam masala, like akha garam masala. You can put a masala powder also to it. You can add ginger, you can add garlic, you can make it as Indian as you want, but eat it as a side, not as a vegetable. Like, you will not eat a large quantity. 1 tablespoon or 1 teaspoon to begin with is enough. What you can do is, there are more than 14 recipes in this course. And of course, you will be tempted to make all of them. But remember, they require space in your fridge. Because once they're ready, they cannot be kept out on your kitchen counter or in your kitchen cabinet. So you make 1 or 2 at a time, finish those, and then make some others and rotate. So different fermented foods give you different benefits, and it's good to keep rotating them. I like using them on salads in place of dressings, because anyway the brine is salty, right? So instead of adding salt, I just like using the brine of any of these fermented foods and using them and adding my other herbs or other flavorings without the salt into the brine itself and using them as dressings. And you can use them in place of other drinks or snacks. So for example, there are a lot of drinks in this course, like there is tapache and there's ginger beer. So instead of having, say, a nimbu pani or having an aerated drink, which I never would recommend in any case, for social occasions, you can have these fermented drinks, and you can use some of these in a fermented form, like a chutney or a dressing which is fermented as a part of a snack. You can top them on sandwiches or any healthy junk food. So what do I mean? Like, if you used kimchi on the top of a pizza, or you used sauerkraut on a sandwich, or you used giardiniera on a baked dish or something, that's how you can incorporate any of these fermented foods on why I'm calling them junk food, because burgers, pizzas, sandwiches we associate with unhealthy food. But if you're healthifying them, then you can even further make them healthier by topping them with some fermented condiments. I'm going to take all these questions. So how do you simplify making them at home? I have mostly kept very simple recipes which have easy equipment, where you don't need to hunt for complicated stuff, and you can choose the ones without a starter, and which is why I have mentioned sauerkraut and kanji, because they do not require any starters. Some of them require starters, and those are in the first page itself, first few links itself, where it mentions the equipment needed. So wherever there are starters required, the sources to buy the starters are mentioned over there. Where you can source them from are mentioned. And you can choose the easy ones first, which are with the lacto fermentation process, and those are also given in the course very clearly. And once you become good at lacto fermentation and you're good at the ones without a starter, you can make your own recipes using the ingredients that you have at home. So you have a little bit of, say, a carrot left, a little bit of bell pepper left, or a little bit of a carrot left, or a little bit of garlic left. You will be able to put them together as long as you follow the proportion of the brine recipe. It's a formula. Once you know that formula, you can pretty much make your own recipes and ferment with whatever stuff you have left at home. You don't have to specially go and buy vegetables or buy things to ferment food. So we're going to move to the recipe in a bit. But before that, I'm just going to take a couple of questions that have come. The fermented foods, once prepared, can be used for how many days? Most of them you can use for up to a month. But each recipe you will be given best before in the recipes in the course. So like a sauerkraut can go up to a month, a kimchi can go up to a month, but kombucha may not be so great for a month. So each recipe, you will like the drinks, the kanji and the ginger beer and the pache will have to be consumed faster. So under each recipe, it will be given how much you can have, like how much quantity you can have, and how many days it stays in the fridge. And if there are any counter indications, like people with diabetes should not have something, or people with so-and-so should not have something, that will also be mentioned. Ferment the cashews and make it dip. It tastes better than mayonnaise. You're absolutely right. Are fermented foods rich in B12? They do have a good amount of B12 in them, but would I use them as a substitute for a person who has low B12 levels and not need for supplements? That's not something that would be, necessarily enough. You would need to supplement if you're low on B12, but it's definitely is a source of B12. Like I said, it may not be enough for your daily requirement. What kind of salt do we need to use? We use natural salt, not iodized salt. Any book by Indian authors on fermented foods? So there are people who I follow on Instagram who do it. I can send you the names if you message me later. No book is coming to my mind right now, but there is a lot of wealth on fermentation. In fact, every state in our country has traditional fermented foods. Every single state, right from the northeast to Maharashtra to south to north, every state has its own fermented food. I wish somebody would write a nice book. Okay. So I have a little more to show, but at this point, let's Karishma show the recipe and then we can continue with your slides. Sure. I'm going to stop sharing.
Yes, I'll just share my screen.
Now I'm going to be showing you Ampali. In India, we've got this rich tradition of fermenting a lot of things and including them in our day-to-day life. So I'm going to show you something which, unlike dokla, idli, dosa, where we actually cook it after fermenting, in this recipe, we finish cooking the grain and then fermenting it to get the maximum benefits of all the good bacteria that will develop. So for this, we're going to take any little millet. Little millets, there are proso, barnyard, kodo, there are many kinds, anything except jawar, bajra and ragi for this recipe in the millet family. So what we do is we soak the millet overnight or about 6 to 8 hours, and after it's well soaked, we drain off the water in which the millet was soaked, and then on a low flame, we cook the millet with additional water. You can take about double the water to cook the millet in. And after it's cooked, what we're going to do is we're going to add some extra water so that the consistency becomes more like a gruel after fermentation. And then we leave it aside on the counter by covering it with a cloth while it ferments. Now this can stay for up to 12 to 24 hours The main thing is that it needs to get a sour taste, and you start noticing bubbles coming into the bowl as the lid ferments. And after it has fermented for about 24 hours or 12 hours, depending on how hot it is where you live, to make it a really yummy dish, what can be done is on the side do a bit of tempering. So here I have some onions, some mustard, curry leaves, and a little bit of chili. And what I'm going to do is do the tadka, the tempering separately, and then add it to the gruel. Remember, we're not going to heat the gruel, which is now become ambali, by fermenting it. So you don't want to now heat the dish. You will do whatever seasoning you want to do. If there's any lime you want to add, salt that you want to add, you will do it into the ambali directly without heating it. So here I'm going to add a bit of salt. And if there are any vegetables you'd like to add, etc., you do it after the fermentation is over. And in case you do feel like having it warm, then would be a good idea to double boil this, so the good bacteria can still stay alive. So you can enjoy this dish as a part of your meal or as a snack, and enjoy the probiotics made in our good old Indian fashion. Hope you like this recipe. Do try it out and let me know how it turned out.
Karishma, you're showing the rest of your slides, right?
Yes, I'll just share my screen.
Yeah.
So I'll quickly talk about the course highlights now. So there are 13 recipes of fermented foods plus 2 bonus recipes. Overall 16 video lectures are there. And then you even get the downloadable recipe ebook with recipes, tips, and hacks. And you'll be given 1 year of access to the course content. You'll be even given a participation certification of completion. And you can always ask your questions. You will be given Q&A support where your questions will be answered within 24 hours by a program expert. Coming to the course highlight, the course content, the recipe name. So as Vinita's already talked about it, there are a lot of fermented foods recipe like kimchi, mukhalal, ambali, which we have seen just now, pressed salad. Fermented drinks are also there, kombucha, kefir, ginger beer, kanji, and all of this. And as I said, that there are bonus recipes also like cheese, curd, coconut yogurt. So these all recipes will be covered in the e-learning course. There are 2 bonus ebooks which you will get. So one is the juices and smoothies ebook, which has a lot of juices and smoothie recipes in the ebook, and it's priced at 300, which you get absolutely free if you buy the e-learning course, along with the Fun with Fermented Foods ebook, which will have all the fermented food recipes, FAQs, do's and don'ts, hacks, and nutrition tips. And this ebook is for 500 rupees, but you're getting it all complimentary and free of cost along with the e-learning course. Now, as I said that I have a special offer for you in the end. So this is the special offer that we have. So this course is originally priced at $13.99, but we are running an offer and we are giving it just for $1,049. The fermented food course ebook is for 500, but we are giving it for free. And the juices and smoothies ebook, as I have already mentioned, it's for 300, but it's also complimentary. So the total value comes down to $21.99, but all of this you get just for $1,049. To clarify, this offer is just valid till 28th of November. And so this is the offer that we have. The coupon code is healthy25 that you can use. And you can even scan this QR code and then you will be redirected to the payment link. If you want to pay via GPay or Paytm, then this is the number which is there on the screen. You can pay via that as well. And you get the ebooks along with the e-learning course. I'll even share all these details on your mail, on WhatsApp, and here in the chat section as well, so that you can easily, make payment through the links. I'll keep this slide maybe on for some time. And till then, Vinita, would you like to take the questions?
Yes, I will take some of the questions that are here. So there was a question about difference between prebiotics and postbiotics. So prebiotics are food for the healthy bacteria. So let's presume you have about 100 healthy bacteria already. We're actually talking about trillions, but let's just, for the point of discussion, say there are 100. Now, like all of us need food, like our children need food, our pets need food, the plants need food, these healthy bacteria also need food. So the food for these prebiotics are the fiber in the food. So when we are talking about insoluble fiber and soluble fiber, which comes from fruits, vegetables, whole grains, those are the things that are prebiotics. So once the healthy bacteria get fed, they can continue to thrive and kind of stay stable. Now, if you don't eat food with good level of fiber, what happens is the 100 starts becoming 90, 80, it starts reducing. So it's important, if you're eating a balanced, wholesome, plant-based diet, then your prebiotics, you don't have to do anything separately for. Probiotics are the bacteria themselves. So now let's presume the same 100 bacteria, you consume a tablespoon of sauerkraut. So they become 120 bacteria, for example. So what how we differentiate is, we're adding more to the existing healthy bacteria by consuming probiotics. And to feed these probiotics, which are already there in your gut, you are eating fiber-rich food, which are prebiotics. So I hope that's clear. If you still have questions, please ask me. And can children take these drinks? So my children do consume them. It's an acquired taste. Not everybody likes them at the first go. So the earlier you get your children used to them, the better. Especially things like the fermented condiments. Some of the drinks like kombucha, etc., they may or may not like immediately, and there is a small amount of alcohol content in them, but it's nowhere near an alcoholic drink. So you can dilute and give them these drinks. But for all the fermented condiments, like imagine like a pickle, whatever is there in the course, you can give all children, you can start with half a teaspoon or a teaspoon. That much is more than enough for them. Do fermented foods help in fighting obesity even in children? So basically what fermented foods do is they reduce your sugar cravings, because let's understand, when we eat a lot of refined sugar-rich food, the unhealthy bacteria grows, because those bacteria like candida like sugar. So those grow a lot. So instead of out of 100, we said 85 should be good and 15 should be not the beneficial one. Instead of being 85 and 15, if it starts becoming 30 and 70, that becomes unhealthy. And these 30s start asking for sugar. And because we keep feeding it, they keep growing. So fermented food increases the beneficial bacteria. And these unhealthy ones start starving and dying, which is a good thing. So that's why fermented foods help with sugar cravings to be reduced. And obesity in children is a bigger problem because it's not just the sugar that they're consuming, it's all the junk food. It's also the time spent on the screen, not being able to play, not being able to go out. Those are also factors to be taken into account. So only fermented foods will not help, but it can definitely be a part of the entire spectrum of things you do to help them get fitter and healthier. How much tapache can you have in a day? So tapache does have sugar, which of course is eaten up more by the bacteria, but at the end of it, end of the day, there will be some remnant sugar left. That's why it will remain a pleasant drink to have. So I would say a small glass, and not every day, maybe like in a week once. It's a good social drink to have. So the next time you're planning to have friends over, you just have to plan it a day before and you can have it ready for your friends. I wanted to share my screen at some point. It's I can do that in a bit. Any other questions? What is the right way to ferment rice and consume it? So if you follow the Ambali recipe exactly for rice, you can consume it like that. So you can make the rice, add water to it at night, cooked rice. You add water in the night, leave it out, and in the morning it will be fermented. Then if you want to put a tadka, like do a tadka, don't put the rice, fermented rice, into the tadka pot. Do the tadka separately, let the tadka cool down and mix it in your rice and add salt, and you can have it like that. Your child is 5 years old, you give her 1/4 cup of kombucha in a week. Is that fine? It's okay, it's fine. And if you're concerned, you can even add water and give it, dilute and give it. Can you have kombucha and water kefir daily? I would say water kefir is good to have every day. Kombucha every day, I'm not a big fan of. I need to know the person's health condition, know what their health history is, and then only I would be able to say kombucha is okay on a daily basis. But water kefir in which no sugar has been added can be consumed every day. Sheetal, what about the carbohydrates in these foods? What is your question? Karishma, could you stop screen share so I can share my PPT? I've got a few more slides left. Thank you. So we've already gone through the overview. We're doing the question and answers. And I just wanted to say I look forward to hearing from you and having you on board for the Fun with Fermented Foods course. And I wanted to share my email address, my website, my number, and I would feel really happy to see you following me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you can go on to Google and put a review for this session also, I would be very happy. You will find me on Google and you can do a Google review. And I thought if any of you want to reach out to me for counseling on a one-on-one basis with me, if you'd like a health consultation, please reach out via this email or phone number.
Actually, someone left in between, but she has asked a question to me on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
She says that she will see the recording later. So can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, so she's saying, why do some Ayurvedic doctors say no to fermented food?
Yes, so as per Ayurveda, like Pitta people should not consume too many fermented foods. So basically what the belief in Ayurveda is that your doshas get aggravated based on what your basic prakriti is. So they prefer fermented foods to be reduced by people with Pitta. It is not a blanket statement that everybody cannot have. And let's understand one thing, like when we consume dosa and idli, the quantity that we have of that batter after it's cooked is quite a bit, right? We'll at least have 2-3 idlis or 1 or 2 dosas. Compared to that, just 1 tablespoon of sauerkraut or 1 tablespoon of any of these fermented pickles that I'm asking you to have is very, very less. So in a small quantity, you're getting the benefit. While a fermented food is a larger quantity, and let's understand, lot of the healthy bacteria does not survive through the cooking process. It makes the food easier to digest because the bacteria have already pre-digested the rice or the urad dal or the millet. So dosas and idlis and doklas are great to eat because they are easier to digest. But if it doesn't suit your prakriti, you can reduce the consumption of that or even avoid it if you feel it really aggravates you. But in the same light, having a little bit of fermented food even every day is fine. But for someone, if your Ayurveda has told you not to have, you should then avoid drinking things like, kombucha or kefir or tapache or anything like that, because the quantity is much more. I hope that she'll get her answer through this. Can you suggest low carbohydrate fermentation food? So let's understand, all vegetables also contain carbohydrates, right? So things like, say, cucumber or bell pepper would contain less carbohydrates than carrots or beetroot. So you can pick recipes in which the low carbohydrate vegetables can be used. And you are following a low carb diet because of medical reasons, and you got to know of the fermentation spike, blood sugar spike. So avoid things in which sugar is added. Even if it's jaggery, avoid those items. So all your savory ferments are safe for you, made with low carb vegetables. So I just answered this question, Rupa, about dosa and idli, why they are beneficial. Not so much from a probiotic perspective, but from a digestibility perspective. Any other questions? Karishma, anyone else has any questions that I should address?
I can't see any other question as of now in the chat section.
Okay.
So
So
the
we'll
record, yeah, please go ahead.
No, sorry, you were saying the recording will be?
Yeah, I said that the recording, I was saying that the recording will be shared on WhatsApp group as well. And we'll be even sharing it on your mail IDs. So you can watch the recording as well. And also this offer again, it's valid till 28th of November. And you get the e-learning course along with the 2 ebooks that I have mentioned.
Okay. I'm just putting across the social media handles and the Google review link. So those of you who can follow and put a review, it will be great.
So someone is asking about when would the session be. So Vinita, if you allow me, can I share my screen and talk about the e-learning course once?
Yes.
Because many a times people have that confusion between live session and e-learning. Just a second. So yeah, Sridevi, it's not a live course. It's basically a e-learning course. And by e-learning, I mean that you can access the course for 1 year. You will be given access for 1 year and you can watch the videos as many times as you want and at any particular time as per your own convenience. There are 16 video lectures in the e-learning course and 13 recipes of fermented foods plus 2 bonus recipes along with the 2 ebooks that I told. You will be even given a certificate of completion and Q&A support where you can ask all your doubts and your queries will be answered. Coming to the course highlight, these are the recipes which are there in the e-learning course. If you buy the e-learning course, you will get these recipes, video recipes, where Vinita herself is, teaching how to make these recipes.
And I personally Sorry, and I personally give the support for any questions that come or any difficulties that people have.
And yeah, these are the two ebooks that are given complimentary. And this is the course offer that we have for $13.99. We are giving it for $1,049. You can use the code healthy25. The offer is valid till 28th of November. I've shared the payment details in the WhatsApp group as well, and here in the chat section also. So any other questions, or can we wrap the session?
I think we can. People have understood and they know where to contact us if they want to take time till the 28th to register for the program. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, all of you who are still here, and hope to see you in the course.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to you, Vinita, for such an insightful session and for being here with us today. Thank you to you, and of course to everybody else as well for being there with us throughout the session.
Yes, thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.